All right, everyone, welcome to the Real Estate Game Changers Show. I'm your host, Mike McKay, based in Jacksonville, Florida. And each and every week, we do this show with people who are changing the game of real estate all over the country. And this is a live show. So if you have any questions, please put them in the comments for our guests to answer. For anyone in the Jacksonville area, next week we are actually going to be hosting a free live Zoom training for people who are either interested in working with us or just interested in getting way better at sales. Our topic for next week is how to prevent objections and close deals. So we are looking for salespeople for our team, but anyone is welcome to join that call and improve your sales skills. So this week on the show, we have Chris Craddock. Chris, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks, man. Glad to be here.
Yeah. So, for the people who don't know you, could you tell us a little bit about how you got into the real estate business and how that's led you to where you are today?
Yeah, so man, I don't have enough time to talk about what's led me here, but yeah, early 2000s, I was on staff with an organization called Young Life. Loved it, changed my life. It was great. I made $25,000 a year, and when my wife got pregnant, you can't live in the DC area on $25,000 a year, and so I went to the library because it was before Google was kind of the fount of all information and knowledge, and checked out every book on real estate investing. And honestly, I look back at how little I knew, and I was like, dang, like I knew nothing. But I just went out and did it, and started knocking on doors of people with foreclosures. And in 4 months, I made 12 times what I made in a year with Young Life, and was able to continue doing ministry stuff for a while. And then as I had more kids, I've got 6 of them now. It took me a while to figure out what caused it, but now we can kind of make sure that doesn't happen anymore. But money started running out, especially in ministry. And anybody that has kids is like, put your money in a bathtub and pull the plug, right? It's gone. And so I was doing everything, like all these side jobs. Like I tried to sell my blood to NIH for $300 to buy Christmas presents for my family. Like had no money, and then I was like, why don't I flip houses again? So I got back into flipping houses, but then all the people with auction dates that I was going to before. Those were short sales, and I realized the banks were going to pay a commission, and they wouldn't negotiate on the price. The commission was like non-negotiable. They either pay it or they don't. And so I got a real estate license. And then I saw that I always had led large teams with in ministry. And I saw like the Gary Keller Millionaire Real Estate Agent book, and it made sense to me. And I was like, oh, I could build that. And so started building a real estate agent team. And then like with this whole focus around the agent investor idea, because that's how I got into real estate. And listings make an agent business massive and incredibly profitable. And then after that, we built all the other like side businesses, like title and mortgage and insurance and construction and coaching, and like just all of the other things that go around that business. And so yeah, so that's where we got today. My agent business will sell between 500 and 600 deals a year. I own a ton of rental properties. We'll do a lot of creative deals as well every year, flips, wholesales, innovation, all the other
Mm,
stuff there. And so, yeah, we really work hard to, mesh that agent investor world. And yeah, that's where we are.
yeah. So, are a lot of your leads coming in on the agent side, and then you're converting them to, well, maybe a listing, but maybe a wholesale deal, maybe a novation, or are they coming in from the investor side, and then you're kind of turning them into investor marketing and then turning them into listings, or is it both?
Yeah, no, it's all like we only offer like the cash offer leads. Now we do have a partnership with Zillow, so Zillow sends us buyer leads as well to our agent team, but we only just offer the cash offer lead to people, and then they come in. And so if you build a massive organization, so I've got over 50 agents that work for us,
Hmm.
and if you have a big organization, you'll realize that the two most expensive things in any organization are if you take out the brick and mortar piece, because that's expensive too, but is marketing and salaries. Those are like the
Hmm.
one and two on almost every organization. Well, the cool thing is if you have an agent business that can list deals when people want a lot of money for it, more money than a a flipper or a wholesaler or somebody who's going to buy and hold, um, then you basically have two massive businesses that are sharing the expense of marketing, and therefore your marketing expenses are at 50%. And you're going to have some salaried people in both businesses, but you do get economies of scale with those businesses. And so you're looking at like 75 cents on the dollar for your staff versus, 100 cents
Mm,
on the dollar if you have two separate businesses. So they mesh really well together.
yeah. So you guys are basically marketing for all the cash offers, and then you kind of convert it if it doesn't make sense for that.
Yeah, you just go down the decision tree. Like, I always say keep the best, sell the rest. And how do you sell them, right? So you keep the best ones as rentals, and then you either sell them through a flip, through a wholesale, through an ovation, through a listing on the market, right? All of them are out there. And like, so, in your area, what is the average home sell for in Jacksonville?
About 350.
350. So here's the crazy thing. How many leads a month do you guys bring in Jacksonville?
Uh, Probably 450, 100, 120 a week. Yeah.
Okay. So 450. And then how many properties a month do you typically sell?
You mean like do we buy? Because we don't do the
Yes.
realtor
Sorry,
side.
sorry. Do
Yeah.
you buy? Do you buy? I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, I do probably like, anywhere 5 to 7 at this point.
So 5 to 7. That means you bring in 450 leads. If you think about it, of them, maybe 100 of those are going to sell on the market like
Yeah.
separately. And if 100 of those sell, then and if it's like, let's just call it 300,000, and you should always take between a 3 and 3.5% listing commission on that. You're looking at like an average of, like, let's just call it a $10,000 listing commission. So your
Yeah.
top line revenue on money that you've already paid for that's walking out the door right now is like 100 deals at $10,000 a deal. That's like almost, what is that, $1 million? Yeah, is it like
$1 million
oh,
exactly.
no,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it's just crazy. It's just every
Yeah.
single month. That's what's walking out the door. So now, granted, that would be top line revenue. You'd still have other fees and splits with agents and everything else that you got to pay. But it doesn't take many deals at $10,000 a pop to really pay all of your overhead off, so that you can get into from good profitability to massive profitability.
Hmm. I'm curious how you have it structured. Like, do all your agents have the ability to do all the strategies, or do you have like certain agents who are like, that's like an investment property, like there's a lot of like distress there. I'm sending that agent, and they're the good person at getting cash deals low, or is it just kind of more like everyone does everything?
Yeah, no, we specialize. So
Okay.
we have some agents that. So basically, it comes in through our inside sales team. Our inside sales team does our first vetting, and then they decide who goes on the appointment. Right.
Mm,
So that's the whole thing. And then we also have some investor partners in our local market that are looking to monetize their leads. So they go through it, and if they realize maybe there's not massive pain, maybe there's not massive motivation, all the things you look for when you're going to get a deal on a property, then they don't say, hey, do you want to talk to a realtor? Because if you say that, everybody's
yeah.
brother's uncle, like, does termite remediation and then like also has a real estate license, right?
Yeah. Yeah.
They just send us out, and they call us a evaluation expert, right? And so you go there, and then we have our agents are trained on the scripting process. There's a very, very, very succinct scripting process that can turn people from saying I want a cash offer to I'm willing to list it on the market. So you got
Mm,
to understand, and this is where a lot of investors, they don't get it, because a lot of investors, they think, they're like, oh, this makes a lot of sense. They want to sell, so I'll just give it to an agent, but then nothing comes of it. Well, the problem is, when these people have raised their hand to a cash offer, that the cash offer is, I want certainty and I want convenience, right? And you think
mm,
about it, okay, they're willing to take a discount, maybe not a massive discount because that's why the agent is there, but they're willing to take a discount. And that's why they raise their hand to it. It's like the person that trades in their car, right? Like, you're going to make less money if you trade in your car at a dealership than you will if you sell it on Craigslist. But you want certainty and convenience, which is why you trade it into the dealership. If you
Hmm.
sell it on Craigslist, people come through. But if you went to the problem when a wholesaler or an investor responds to somebody with a cash offer and then says, "Hey, do you want to talk to an agent?" What they say is, "Hey, I can." It's like, okay, I'm going to trade in my car, and they say, and the dealer says, "Okay, cool, I'll get you more money." But instead of giving you cash right now, what I'm going to do is put it up on Auto Trader and I'm going to put it on cars.com and I'll get you more money for it. And you're like, wait, what? I want to trade in my car. I don't want you to like put it on
Yeah, yeah.
cars.com for me, you know? So that's why most investors just think that it'll work with agents and then do it and then they give up because they make no money because they don't understand how
Mm.
that cycle actually works.
So you got your inside sales agents taking the calls, and they're kind of deciding, okay, is this an investor deal? And then they send certain of your agents out who are kind of investor cash focused, right? The guy who's going to
Yeah.
get it for the low price, or they have, if they think it might, maybe there's not that ton of pain. There's kind of a different person from your team who goes out, different agent.
So there's a couple different agent groups in that are trained for different pockets of what we do, right?
Okay.
So if they don't think it's an agent deal, or if they think it's a deal, they'll send it to one group, right? If they think that it's probably a listing, they'll send it to another group that are very good on their scripting. And if they think, and if it calls, like if they don't have any pain, if they're just looking for an agent to show up, then we've got a bigger pool that we can send it to. If there's like, if they're okay, if there's just like, I just want to talk to a real estate agent, like then that's a different group, right? And so that's where we just kind of go through that decision tree when we're doing our pre-qual call when we get in touch with them at the beginning.
And then like you have 50 agents, so like sounds like there's obviously a bunch in each group. Like I'm curious how you do your lead distribution within those once it hits that group.
Yeah, one by location. Two, we always take our best agents get the most. We fill them up first, and our the bottom line is life is not. Well, it is fair, right? It's completely fair, right? The people that do the best should get the most opportunity, right? That's fair, right? And um, so we give our top people the most opportunity, and then when people earn their way in, and we look at their conversion numbers, and we look at all of that, and when they earn their way in, they move themselves up. And anybody that has a high conversion rate we'll make sure that they're getting deals, and like we turn up every dial we can in marketing to make
Mm.
sure that nobody is like that all of our people are at that edge of like not quite overly busy where they're dropping balls, but also not having like way extra free time on their hand because we want them the best converters like Hitman going in, close the deal, move on to the next deal, right?
Yeah. Is the are the inside sales agents like setting the appointment, or they're just doing a pass off to for the other agent to call that prospect?
No, we set the appointment. I mean, you know how hard it is to get people on the
Yeah.
phone. So we set the appointment, go from there. But then part of our process is we have before they go meet with them, they call back not to confirm because if you call to confirm, people are
Oh.
gonna cancel. But we call back and just say, hey, I've been doing a lot of research on your property, right? Make them feel bad if they try to cancel. We've been doing a lot of research on your property. And I have just a couple questions for you. And we go through a lot of the similar questions that they've already been asked. And what we found is, oftentimes the answers will change. And if they've changed, then you're able to go through and figure out like why have those answers changed, what do they really want, what don't they want,
Mm.
and what we always say is that if the person going on the appointment can't send me a text saying exactly how much money they want for that property before they get there, what their pain and motivation is, and then also what their game plan is. Like what is their strategy once they're in the door to move this to a signed agreement that you are actually going in just preparing to lose. So like, probably
Huh.
should cancel the appointment right there because you're not prepared to win.
I like that. Okay, so you want to have, yeah, their pain ahead of time, what they're looking for, and then kind of what that salesperson's game plan is. Do you track that anywhere? Like, do they have to, salesperson have to enter that information somewhere ahead of time,
Well,
or?
when we're doing our training and our one on ones with them, we'll listen to calls and we'll go through it and we're like, okay, what was the plan? What is the deal here? All that stuff. So we'll go through, but we don't have them actually submit it. We probably should, but we don't have them submit it.
Yeah. Okay. And we were talking to like a lot offline. I think you talked about it a bit with some other investors in town, kind of send you leads, but we were talking about monetizing dead leads. And I'm just curious, like, I mean, I think it was before we went officially online, but I was like, yeah, I've got thousands of those in my system, right? So what's your strategy to monetize dead leads?
Well, bro, it's just what we talked about with your leads a few minutes ago. Like, I mean, if you have 100 people that are going to sell in your market, like in your market that you're working in
Hmm.
every month, like, and the average commission is $10,000 a pop. Let's say, let's say of the 100, let's say you're only getting 10% of the 100 that you're talking to. That's
Hmm.
still $100,000 a month in top line revenue that you're letting walk out the door that you've already paid for, right? And so, even if you partner with a local agent that is really good and actually is like knows this process,
Hmm.
and a lot of them don't, they need to be taught this process, everything else. But if you partner with somebody that knows this process, then let's say you're keeping 35% of every deal that they close, right? You're setting the appointment for that agent because you have their Calendly and you're just putting it on their calendar, and they're closing at a 10% rate, and you set 100 appointments for them a month and they close 10% of them. You're still making $35,000 a month, right? An extra
Yeah.
$400,000 is pretty life changing for a lot of businesses because it, like, 400 grand will cover most of people's marketing expenses in a year, right? And then all of a sudden your marketing is completely paid for, your profitability goes way up.
I'm curious what your strategy is for, you said there's kind of some very specific scripting and talk tracks that the agent has to get them from, okay, I wanted this convenient cash offer, but it obviously isn't going to work cash, to get them to a listing. I'm curious what that conversation sounds like.
Yeah, I mean, here's what it is, right? Because just like, the best in the world already know what's going on. You're playing checkers and you're not playing chess, right?
Yeah.
So like when you're there, that you're talking to them and they say they want the cash offer, but as you're sitting there, you're pre-qualifying them out of the cash offer because it's like, okay, they don't have to sell fast. They're just like, I will sell, I'm gonna sell, but I'm just going to buy a bigger house. So and I don't even have that house identified yet. So I saw your ad and I'm ready to go. So there's no pain, there's no motivation, there's no time sensitive nature to it. So all of
Hmm.
a sudden I'm hearing this and I'm asking questions and I realize there's no pain there. So then all of a sudden I'm like, okay, their only pain is that they're not in their dream house yet. And so they're probably not going to take a 25% discount on what they would get on the open market at this point.
Hmm.
So we're going to move and we're going to pivot to the listing. And so this is my exact talk track. I just say, so listen, um, I see where you're coming from, and I know you'd like about 350 for your property, and I'm looking at this, and the cash offer that we typically offer is for somebody that needs to close in 7 days or less, and that usually is somebody that has like a foreclosure date or has a reason why they need to move really fast, and so you don't really need that, and so the offer that I would give you for the cash offer would be way lower than I think. Uh, that you're looking for, or frankly, as I'm listening, that I think you should take. The second thing, because I'm a licensed real estate agent with eXp Realty, I could list the property for you, but listen, in the state of Virginia, people go to school longer to learn how to cut hair than they do their biggest assets. I don't have a high regard for what most real estate agents do. We have this other process. We call it our hybrid program. And your house, I think, would be perfect for this. And what it is we've got over 9,000, actually 9,132 investors in our database that we look at and we match properties just like yours. And a lot of these investors, instead of people like me with a cash offer that are looking to buy it, flip it, and make a modest profit on it, these people are going to buy it and then hold it for 30 years and make their money over 30 years. So they oftentimes will buy as is in a very simple, easy way. And a lot of times they'll buy cash. A lot of times they just make it a lot simpler. So it's this cross between that cash offer and a listing where you're going to make more money than the cash offer, but you're going to do it in a way that's a little more convenient for you. So I think that'd be the right fit for you. Does that work for you?
Yeah, but how does that work? Like the way, like how does that exactly work?
Yeah. So what we would do is we would get your property and we would market to all of our investors. And then we would also market out to the general public. And because I know you don't want people coming through your house at all hours of the time, we do something, we call it a strategic investor open. And we just on Saturday, on the Saturday from 1 to 3 and Sunday from 1 to 3, we will only allow people to come into your property from those 3 hours, and we'll have somebody from our team there to make sure that everything is above board, everything's going well, and we'll invite everybody that's interested during that time to come and take a look at your property.
Gotcha. So is that like, so when you go that route, like is that are they always gonna is it kind of like almost an innovation route? Like, are you gonna take care of like the repairs if those come in? If you do get someone who's like, it's like a decent house, but there's, I don't know if you guys do a lot of FHA or anything like that.
Yeah. So we have a program called it's Renovate Now, Pay Later, where we charge them 1% of the sales price to take care of all the repairs, right?
Huh.
So yeah, and we just get paid at closing, and they have to have equity in the property for us to be willing to do it. We won't do it if
Sure.
it's a short sale. But just think about that. You do 10 properties like that at 350. You just made an extra 35 grand just to float them, a couple $1,000, until closing.
Yeah.
As long as it's priced right and done well. So yeah.
Yeah. And then do you run into trouble though, because if you're only like having the property shown twice a week, obviously it might limit like some less buyers being able to come or
Yeah. So what I've found is most of the time on these properties, they're willing to sell at a slight discount, right? And
Mhm.
so right now, and there's a lack of inventory, and so if people are selling at 95 cents on the dollar, um, and then paying a commission, right? So they're making like say 90 cents on the dollar, whatever it is,
Mhm. Yeah.
89 cents on the dollar, right? There's not really enough room for innovation. There's not really enough room for a wholesale, but you know, like somebody else is going to look at it, like a doctor or a dentist is going to be like, oh my gosh. And you're just going to have a massive amount of people that are in on that coming through. You're going to get multiple offers. People are going to, be willing to sell cash offer, like all of the other pieces there. So, yeah.
Because you're offering, I mean, to a person who's looking on the open market, you're offering a pretty aggressive price. To an investor, they're not interested, but
Oh, yeah,
like a
yeah, yeah.
traditional investor, yeah.
Yeah, so I like to call it like the civilian investor is loving this property, right?
Yeah,
So
right.
we just see it. Like, I mean, we get all these investors that are like, C-suite executives of like, government contracting companies, and they're like, oh man, I'm getting a discount on this. Cause like, if you think about this is like, and this is what most of us in the investor space think about. We're like, okay, it's not a deal unless it's, more than, 70 cents on the dollar, off. Right. But like, when you think about the average, like, chiropractor, they're looking at it and they're buying properties that are cash flow negative and holding them. right? And
Mm-hmm.
all of a sudden they look on the MLS and they're like, oh, this is awesome. It is the MLS is the best buyers list you'll ever create if you're a wholesaler. It's way better than any buyers list you can create. Investor Lift, I like what Robert Winsley created is great, but I promise you, even Investor Lift, which is a great product, does not hold a candle to the 6 million eyeballs that come from the MLS and from
Mm-hmm.
Zillow and Redfin and Realtor.com.
Yeah. No, that's so true. Like a lot of times for like one of our strategies has been, this is not an original strategy, is we'll just sometimes buy it and just put it on the MLS as is because I just know that there's an investor out there who I don't know who's going to pay 20 grand more than anyone in my private list because like you said, they're just like a doctor or a lawyer and they're like, oh, I can get a rental property and I can make, some money every month. Yeah, I'll buy it. Like I don't need to buy it at 70 cents on the dollar. They're like,
Yeah,
they think 90 cents is a sweet deal or
right,
95 cents. So I like
right.
that strategy. Yeah. So is that the way that, do you guys ever do like well, you probably do because you have so many agents, but do you ever go like is it ever totally just the traditional listing route or do you kind of always go with this pitch?
Oh, no, no, no. Yeah, it's always a listing. So the hybrid pitch is our traditional listing. The reason why we go with that is most people, most agents or most people have an agent friend, right? And so what we're
Mm,
doing is the reason why we say the first part is because we don't want other people them to shop us with other investors because we're like, this is what a traditional cash offer looks like.
mm-hmm.
And this is why it doesn't work, and so that they're now disqualifying the other investors they were thinking about meeting with. This is the deal with a regular real estate agent and a regular listing, and this is why that is not the best for you. We're disqualifying their brother's uncle, right, who's a real
Mm-hmm.
estate agent. And then we say this is what we do here for our thing. And so did you ever do P90X back in the day? Did you ever
No, I
see that?
saw the commercials, but I never did it.
Oh
Yeah.
man, I loved P90X because you could just press play and color by numbers, just do what it said. And so I
Yeah.
just go in my basement every morning and just hit play and just do it. And but here's the crazy thing: Tony Horton said it washed out. It like almost, it was almost a failed product. And then this marketing genius came up with the idea of something that sounded original and different, and he called it muscle confusion, right? And anybody that goes to the gym knows that if you work out back and bicep one day and then you work out chest and tricep and then you change your workouts, you're going to get stronger, right?
Mm-hmm.
But they labeled it muscle confusion, and that all of a sudden like all of America was thinking, holy crap, I could eat, two pizzas and like a full stack of ice cream sandwiches every night, but because of muscle confusion I'm going to have a six pack.
Right.
Like, it's just crazy. But there was a book on marketing called Positioning, right? And you're just kind of positioning yourself as different than the rest of the pack, so that it really does feel like a blue ocean,
Mm.
and you're open there, right? But the second you're talking like list it like a regular realtor, you're red ocean. Throw a stick and you hit four realtors, right?
Sure, you start getting shopped too. I mean,
Yeah. Oh,
yeah,
absolutely. And that's part of the reason why we get the commissions that we get, which is usually way above, like our market commission is like usually 1.5% or less in our market. And we're
really.
usually
Wow.
we're getting above 3%, on most of our commissions.
Yeah. Super interesting. Yeah. I'm also curious. So you've got about 50 agents working for you. So you must have gotten pretty good at this point about hiring salespeople.
Yo, yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean, that like, if you're a business owner, the interesting thing about being a business owner is, I guess this is the whole thing, right? Like understanding how to differentiate yourself. Like I just talked about the commissions, but here's also the difference, right? We provide a value to people. We solve problems. We're able to get things done in ways that other people aren't able to do, right? And the only way to do that is you bring in high tier, high quality people, right?
Mm-hmm.
Because when you do that, people will pay more for quality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like just always, right? Why does somebody pay more for a Rolls Royce than they do for a Honda Accord, right? You pay more for quality. Um, but as a business owner, you got like 1,000 different things. And I've got a business coach. I think everybody should spend 10% of their income on coaching and personal development. And one of the things that I struggled with, I read the book. Um, I read the book. Oh, I'm losing my mind. The One Thing,
Yeah,
right? And
great book.
as a business owner, I remember talking to my business coach, and I said, "How do I focus on the one thing? I've got like 50 things that are going on. Like I've got to work on my P&L. I've got to work on marketing. I've got to work on like I've got to work with my direct reports on all these different. Even though I'm not doing it, my direct reports are, and I got to work
Mm,
with them on it. And one of the things my business coach said was, okay, if you boiled all the things that you're talking about down, what do you boil it down to? And actually, uh, Dan Sullivan wrote a book about what we decided it was. It's who, not how, right? It's
mm,
finding high level talent that can do all of those things. And so at this point, like that's my number one thing is finding talent and investing in the talent around me. I actually keep this right here on my desk. It's a Newton's cradle. And my whole idea is, how do I add energy, right? Like this ball, Newton's cradle here, it stops. But then every day I've got to add energy back to to the people in my world, right?
oh,
And so I need to find talent and then add energy to that talent. And that is my job. That is my role.
yeah. How are you going about hiring really good sales talent?
I hired a recruiter a number of years ago. I didn't like I'm a part of a number of masterminds, and one of the masterminds we actually, it was really cool. We went down to Tampa, and if you Google fly fighter jets in Tampa, we flew fighter jets, and then at night we sat around a fire at the Airbnb we were staying at, and everybody just shared where their pain point was. And for me, I'm I'm an optimist. I'm an extrovert. I listen to people and I'm a visionary. So I see the best in people. And then a lot of people just really aren't willing to live up to the size of who they could be. And so I was like, I hate it. I hate it. I hire poorly and everybody just gave me such a hard time. They're like, hire a recruiter, hire a recruiter. Why don't you, if this is a pain point in your life and you don't think you're good at it, hire somebody that is. And so we
Mhm.
did. And then I was like, this is one of the greatest hires I've ever made.
So I'm actually really curious on this topic because I have hired a recruiter before and I didn't make the right hiring decision with that hire. What specifically were you looking for that, or did you find in a recruiter that made that recruiter so successful to be able to do what you need them to do?
Yeah, we went through we interviewed a bunch of people, and you know, Jim Collins also says don't discount the role of luck. And there were two people that we got really close with, and the person that we ended up hiring was she was a recruiter in the tech sales industry, and
Yeah.
so it was a different world, but it was still sales, and yeah, that was I don't I wish I could give you more. It was just like when we talked to her, she checked a lot of the boxes. She did a really good job as far as explaining her process.
Mm,
And also, just culturally, she aligned really well with who we were. And so we're like, this is great. But we also, we kept an eye on it. And for a little bit, we were like, okay, if she doesn't hit metrics, we're going to pull the plug real quick. And she
mhm,
did hit metrics. And then, as I got to know her, now I would consider a friend. Um, you know, we realized she was just, she was excellent. And so that was that
mhm.
whole thing is like trying to find somebody that was excellent. But I brought in my COO, my integrator, in on that so that I wasn't the only one making the call on that because yeah, I don't know that I
Visionary.
would be a
Yeah.
great person to make the call on that.
What were the metrics that you were holding her to in the first couple months that you had her hired?
I believe we were looking to grow our agent team quickly. So we wanted two new agents per month.
Were you um, were you having any KPIs for like how well those agents were doing, or was it just kind of like hire two agents? I mean, was there any way that you were tracking that she was hiring, I guess, good agents versus just agents?
Um, yeah, I we wanted to get more agents, right? And we also wanted better quality agents. So that was the main, like both and I guess. We were really struggling with, just because I was so busy doing other things, it was kind of like this add-on thing, even though it should have been my number one thing. And so if I really believed that bringing high-level talent into my world was like the number one thing, then I should probably have somebody that's full-time focus is on that.
Was there any like KPIs you were looking at to know that the agents she hired were good?
Yeah, so we wanted them to have a couple transactions under the belt in the first 60 days, and
Okay.
you know that was a learning process. I wish I could say it just all went well, but there was a lot of churn and people that were not doing well, and so that was kind of the deal. We needed to be better on that front than we really were. But
What
we
was
got
she?
there. And then part of that was I brought in a sales director, and then I brought in somebody to manage our new agents as well, like that, in charge of mentorship program.
Uh,
So now we have people, and they just built out the mentorship and the sales process, right? The who, not how. So they built that out. And if people don't, they have to get certified by script practice, by doing the right thing for us to be able to allow them to get any benefits and any resources from the team.
Gotcha. So there's like someone who's in charge of just basically getting the new agents up to speed, and then there's an overall kind of sales director for after that.
Right, right.
Okay. Gotcha. And then what's the recruiter doing? What's she doing to find people, if you know?
Yeah, what is she doing to find people? I mean, LinkedIn, Indeed, Wise Hire, all of those different pieces. And the main thing too, we are fighting like crazy to update our ads, to get our ads better. We found that like some ads will just bring massive amounts of people in. Other ads, you get crickets. So, part of it is just being good at writing ads that attract.
Yeah. Is she doing like outbound and like outbound recruiting methods, or is it more just kind of she's like trying to get tons of applicants and filter for the best ones from there?
Little bit of both. So we also, for the agent side of the business, we have something that tells you what agents have done in our market. And so what we did is, this has been a hard year for a lot of people in real estate in
Mm.
the last couple of years have. And so what we did was we just put a metric in that was anybody that's production has gone down by 40% or more, that we will send them emails and spend some time calling through those folks as well, because we know that they're hurting.
Interesting. So was there a metric that you were looking at that was like, did they have to do a certain amount of business before? So you were kind of able to see that they were good, but maybe they needed more resources, or was there any kind of minimum that you were expecting them to do prior to dropping to 40%?
Not really, not
No.
really. We're looking. I mean, just like the cash offer, looking for pain, and then, and if there's pain, sometimes it's because they're not good, and sometimes it's
Yeah.
because they didn't know how to pivot with the market, or maybe it's whatever. And so, but we're getting people that are, when that kind of pain hits them and hits their business, that we're able to move on that.
And that's like a stat on your local MLS. You can see kind of, is it
No,
number of deals or what is it?
I don't know the name of it, but it's like a broker metrics or something like that. It's a process. It's like a program that we pay for monthly, and I can't remember the
Okay.
name of it. I can find out the name, but if you Google it, there's a ton of different things that will give you the matrix of agents.
Gotcha. Okay. And then like besides obviously you've got the, recruiter, right, who's helping you hire the people, like what does the process look like and in terms of like the interview to like actually make that choice to know, okay, this is a person who's gonna have a good chance at being successful here. Like let's pull the trigger and hire them
And you're talking about for an agent or for a recruiter?
for an agent. Yeah.
For an agent, well, I mean, honestly, are they competitive? We did, if you've ever gone through EOS traction, I know most people that have been in this business world have. Uh, with EOS traction, part of the VTO is you make like that perfect salesperson, piece. And we started looking at it, and they're massively competitive. They've had success in their life. We see a lot of like college athletes are really great because they understand the fact that you have to put in the work to show up
Mhm.
at the game and win. And it's like the work you put in when nobody's watching is what gives you the success when people are watching, that kind of idea with college athletes. But again, there's a lot of people that are not athletes that win. So competitive, athletic, like been athletes. People, like, what we found is a lot of times if you are not a primary breadwinner, that there's not that same drive. Not always. There's definitely the exception to the rule, but what we found is most of the time, if you're not the primary breadwinner, that you're not usually going to have that like fire in the belly. And there's that like almost fear that drives people. It's not, fear is not the right word, but this thing that drives people on. Um, but yeah, those are some of the main things, like having a big goal but a reasonable goal, a realistic goal. So those are the
Mhm.
things that we look for, that we've seen when they have those things, they tend to win.
Gotcha. And then do you guys have any assessments that you do along the way, or is it mostly
Yeah,
interview?
I mean, mainly the disc. We love the disc profile and then strengths finder.
Sorry,
But
what's the second one? I haven't heard of that one
strength
before.
finder,
Okay, what is
strength
that? What is
finder.
that? What does that
It's
assess
just
for?
another like personality assessment profile, very much like DISC. But I'm a huge DISC fan, but Chris, our lead recruiter, she loves Strength Finder.
Okay, gotcha. And then you were saying kind of earlier more about like monetizing the dead leads. So it seems like you've built relationships in the market with a bunch of investors, and do they send you over leads? Like how have you structured that? Because that sounds like a way to quickly multiply like the amount of business you can do because you're getting leads from however
Yeah.
many people who are generating hundreds a month.
Leads that are just dying, right? They're dead. I mean, you said you've got thousands in your database, right? Like, so you got, I mean, literally, you have millions of dollars that are transacting every month, right now. And so, as we look at it, the main thing here is, how do these leads turn into something? We talk to people and we just say, "What are you doing with this?" And everybody always says, "Oh, I tried this, I tried that, and it doesn't work." Or they'll say, "Oh my gosh, I don't know why I didn't think about it. That's a great idea." And then, they go through it and it doesn't turn out to be a great idea. But,
Mm,
um, the reality is, once you know the process and you understand the psyche of the people that have raised their hand for a cash offer, and that you can't just say, "Oh, you want to, sell, so here, talk to this realtor," that won't work. Then you can start to actually build something. And then once you build something, you can, you offer 35%. Now, every investor that gets referral fees from agents needs to have a real estate license. And if you look nationwide, uh, you know, if you wholesale, if you're in the investor world, almost like all the states are starting to require some sort of licensure, if you wholesale. So, like, licensing is coming for almost all investors anyway. So you might as well get ahead of it, and it allows you to get referral fees every time you sell a deal.
yeah. Yep. For sure. Cool. What are the like pitfalls that you see some of these people make who, because you've said people have tried it on their own, right? And I've tried it before too. I've sent leads to numerous agents, and I've had it work sometimes, and then I've had some that I've just sent a ton, I mean, hundreds of leads over, and nothing has come of it. What were some of the pitfalls that you see people making besides the pitch? Obviously, they don't understand the pitch.
Yeah, the pitch, that's the number one. I mean, over and over and over again, that's the biggest issue. And then after that, yeah, it's choosing the wrong agent that you're sending it to, an agent that doesn't understand investors. If you're not sending to an agent that's like really good or has a team where they know how to track and can send you an update on each lead, most agents are just so not organized that your precious leads are gonna, be, stuck in a pile of papers somewhere and not followed up with, right? So you need somebody that is either so freaking hungry for deals and like willing to do whatever it takes and will never like they're either gonna like get blocked from these phone numbers, or they're gonna get a deal, or you need to get with a team that like understands investors but also
Mhm.
understands how to get how the follow up process works. Because even big
Mhm.
teams, they don't really follow up well like that. I mean, and you know that in our business, right? Like in the investor business, follow up. There's fortunes in the follow up, and most people just don't do it. Even big investors.
Yeah, for sure. And then you're always setting the appointment for that agent from your inside sales team. So I guess that removes one step from the
Yes.
process. I think that's a mistake that I've made before. I would just pass the lead off to an agent, not set the appointment. Then I'm relying
Right.
on them to book the appointment. Yeah, that's a mistake for sure.
Right. Right.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Right.
Well, we're getting close to the end here, and there's always two questions that I like to ask at the end of the show. The first one is, what is the craziest or most uncomfortable situation that you have ever experienced in a real estate deal?
Oh man, I have two of them. But let's see. Do you want the one where I was most scared, or the one that was like just the most like, wow, I can't even believe this happened?
I'll let you pick whatever you think everyone would like to hear.
Mhm. All right, well, I'll do this one. So one of the first deals, I was going to buy it. He was going up for foreclosure. We solved his problem. Everything was going really, really well, and Um, but the guy was he was a little weird. So I go over to his house when, the agent on my team was like setting up the deal. And I go over there and the power's out. It's freezing cold. And like, so we're wearing jackets because like everything's out and he's got a foreclosure date coming up and everything else. And so halfway through the appointment, I'm like I drink a lot of water, and I'm like, hey, I need to use the bathroom. Put me in the bathroom. So I start walking down where he pointed me, and he's like, oh, by the way, the power's out. Just leave it in the toilet. It doesn't matter. And I was like, that's weird. And I'd said to Teddy, the agent on my team, like whatever he says, I was like, you'll probably hear some weird things because he was newer to it at the time. I was like, whatever he says, just smile and nod. Don't make any reactions because a lot of times weird things are said. And then so I got back and Teddy's like, oh, so should you just leave it in the toilet? Like you don't flush? And the guy's like, no, I got a bucket in the basement I've been using for months. And Teddy's like, oh, yuck. I'm like,
Oh
no,
no.
act like you've been there before. Just smile and nod. Just smile and
Yeah.
nod. But then here's the crazy thing. I'm there interviewing somebody like the next day, and I had a Fitbit watch, and my watch was just going crazy. But like it was like weirdly glitchy, which is why I moved to the Apple Watch, at like within a couple months from there. But it was going crazy, and I was like, "What is going on?" And then I looked, and my watch said I had 34 missed calls, and I was like, what the heck? So I pulled over I pulled my phone out and I looked and it said 34 missed calls. And it was like my wife, my brother, and then that agent. And so then I was like, I said to the person, I'm like, hey, do you mind if I like step aside for a second? I need to find out why everybody's calling me so much. And so I go out and it turns out my wife was listening to the radio and they said there was a home explosion. And then it said the home explosion was in the county where we bought a house. and then name the street name that we bought the house on. And what we found out was the guy just decided he didn't want to move anymore, and so he shot his dog, shot himself, and he used to be a plumber, so he like went out and jerry rigged the plumbing so the gas came into his house. It blew up his house and like created like 17 different, like basically totaled another house and 17 other houses, and 19 cars were basically destroyed from what he did. Nobody else was hurt, thank the Lord, but just absolutely blew it. Like he blew it up, and the only thing that survived was there was bamboo in the backyard that survived. So it's kind of crazy, but yeah. So there's my craziest story in
That's
real.
up. That's up there. Cool.
Yeah.
Well, second question I always like to ask is for the newer people listening to the show is if you could go back in time and give yourself one piece of advice when you were looking for your first real estate deal, knowing what you know now, what would you tell yourself?
Mm, that everything comes from activity and skill, right? So talk to as many people as you can and work on getting better, and don't be scarcity minded. I just thought that I would never find the next deal that was like the last one. I didn't think that there were a lot of deals out there, and now I know. I mean, there's deals everywhere. You just got to know where to look.
Yeah, I like that. Yeah, it's a great piece of advice. Chris, if people want to reach out to you after the show, if they have any questions or they want to connect with you, how can they go about reaching out to you?
Yeah, so at Crad Rock is my Instagram handle. Feel free to send me. I know it's a cheesy old high school nickname. I probably should change it to something else, but is what it is. And um, so yeah, I still reply to my own to all the DMs on there. That's one of the places where you can actually get me personally. Everywhere else, like staff or other people are replying. And then, if you're interested, I know the average podcast listener listens to 7 podcasts. So I've also got a podcast called Uncommon Real Estate. Would love to, yeah, it's more about the agent investor side. So if that's something that intrigues you, that's what we talk about. Uh, so yeah, those are the way to find me.
Cool. Well, awesome. Thanks for being on the show.
Yeah, this is awesome. Thanks for hanging with me. It's
Yeah.
great.